All right, continuing on, our subject is going to be the ghost. He was standing, and he was indicating, gesturing, or signaling, whichever word you prefer for the second verb. These are both imperfect singulars. Then we have an ablative of means with his finger, describing how he was signaling. And he is similar to one calling. In other words, trying to call you over and gesture in such a way as to get you to follow. Hic, I'm understanding that to be from the pronoun just hic, haec, hoc, so I'm going to do that as nominative singular. This one, and I'm interpreting that as referring to the philosopher. Contra, in reply. And then we have a purpose clause, in order that for a little while, paulum, he, the ghost, would remain. So that's our purpose clause, and it's really set up by this action that follows. He signals with his hand. So he signals with his hand so that the figure might remain for a little while. So in other words, just kind of some sort of pausing gesture. And again, rusus. He leans over. This is a compound verb. This is referring again to the philosopher. He leans over his wax tablets and his stylus. Again, I mentioned that was a compound verb because these are two dative direct objects of that compound verb. The next word, illa, refers back to the ghost. That one was, I guess we could say, making noise with his chains, another ablative of means, ablative plural. And then the making noise being also a compound verb with the in before sonobat, that'll take a dative. So he was making noise upon or over the capiti, the head of the one writing. So that ghost came right up on top of him. He looks back, and again, rusus. It's like he looks back and implied, obviously, sees the same, meaning like the same ghost or the same figure, signaling. This is the present active participle form of the second verb of this page. Quod primus, as before. All right, so the basic sequence of what has happened so far, the figure was standing there and signaling for him to follow. The man replies with a signal of his own, asking him to wait as he continues to deal with his stylus and his tablet. The ghost then kind of shakes the chains a little bit louder, like directly over his head, and as the man looks, he once again sees the same signaling happening. Moratus is going to be a perfect passive participle. It would, of course, be optional when you have a perfect passive participle to just turn it into an indicative verb. In this case, we'd imply the third person singular, moratus est. So we could say, he did not delay, or not having delayed, he lifts his light, and he follows. Now we'll understand here from context in a second that the subject changes to the ghost. So it was going. Illa, referring to the ghost, that one was going. With a slow step. Quasi, as if. And gravis is going to be referring in the nominative back to the ghost, as if heavy with its chains, or on account of its chains. I would say that could either be an ablative of mean or an ablative of cause, describing why it's heavy. After, it changes course, deflexit. Flexit literally means to just change or bend, and we're just picking up on context that it sort of changes its direction into the courtyard or the atrium of the home. And suddenly, having slipped away or departed, it abandoned its companion. Comitem referring back to the accusative, well, the implied accusative direct object, which would be the philosopher who was there as a companion. He, having been deserted or abandoned, he placed or put herbs and leaves having been gathered. So two different direct objects, one's with a perfect passive participle. And those are both, the herbs and the folia are going to be appositive to a signum, a sign. So we placed those herbs and the foliage having been collected as a sign in the place or upon the place. Posterio die, ablative of time, on the next day or on the day after. Ad iet, it's just a compound verb, to go to, or he approached or went to. And the direct object there is the magistrates, government officials of the city. Monet, he warns or even advises. This sets up an indirect command that they, our subject now, the magistratus, that they order. And inside of this indirect command, we have an indirect statement that illum locum, that place, the place that he had marked, be excavated or dug up. All right, relatively short page for today. Pretty straightforward grammar overall. As always, take that once more from the top. You'll learn it better, and it'll always make it easier to go in class when called upon. Good luck.